Okay, so I'm just gonna start.
French and German. I got to do
All right, nice. Okay, so it's just
Eine offene Frage.
Genau, eine offene
geschlossene Frage.
Yes, right. I'll record my question. Yes. He will. Right.
So, how does your study program relate to sustainability, if so?
So in international relations at King's, you have to actively choose to study sustainability. So it's not just taught as part of the central programme. So I picked a programme called Environmental Security. And in general, it's a pretty good conversation about sustainability. Its main focuses are looking a lot more about how sustainability applies to the real workforce. So looking at how markets are involved in sustainability rather than just general sustainability actions. But actually one of the really beneficial things about the course is it encourages you to get involved in grassroots. So we're encouraged to get involved in grassroots movements within the college. So in terms of, even making the King's catering more green, but also looking at sort of how we as students can outreach the local community about green things. So I personally was involved in a speech that I gave at Chatham House to do with how King's students can engage with the elderly generation, about how we can begin to bring a broader range of people within society into sustainable development. So I was particularly looking about how we could educate the elderly on how their pensions could be used as part of green. So I think within academia at King's, there is a large potential for sustainable interest and sustainable engagement. But it's something you really have to seek out. It's not enforced on every student, it's not part of every programme. So I chose to do that programme and then I chose to be enrolled in those courses. So it's more of an active choice to be enrolled rather than something that is organically given to you.
I do MA International Relations at King's, and I don't think it relates to sustainability very much at all. There was one lecture on international relations and the Anthropocene, which was quite depressing, and then the seminar led to some quite miserable conclusions about having no hope. Made worse by working shifts, hospitality shifts at lots of random places, including yesterday at a conference for a big UK supermarket where they had lots of signs everywhere talking about how all the food was going to be donated to a homeless food charity, and I saw it all go in the bin. It's not great. It's so depressing, but yeah, so it's not very sustainable. Yeah, I feel I'm definitely of the school of thought which is completely, not completely, but quite fatalistic about anything I do is not going to make a difference. So, yeah.
Do you like that?
No, I think it's a horrible position to be in, but I have no power whatsoever. So, yeah, I can't do anything to change. I can do little things, but I know all they do is make me feel better, and they don't necessarily actually make anyone else. They don't help the bigger picture that much. Great, I threw another plastic bottle away. I recycle. Yeah. And then particularly when big companies encourage you to do those, or say McDonald's and paper straws is the best example. It's such a drop in the ocean that makes no difference whatsoever. And you just think why?
So I'm doing a master's in history, and in history there is a discipline called environmental history, in which we look at how people in the past, which was their relationship to their environment, and it can be useful to understand how nowadays we can relate to our environment, how we change it when we look at what people in the past did. Sometimes they did it really bad, and sometimes really in the way sometimes we can discover that even 400 years ago on the other side of the planet people would like pollute in a way similar to nowadays. So that's interesting. But even more interesting is looking at how some of the relationship to the environment were more sustainable. Then it can give ideas about how to be sustainable nowadays. For example, I don't know, a society somewhere in Asia which had like a type of rice cultivation which was really sustainable with terraces, and they would think on the long run how to keep their resources. And yes, this kind of stuff could be helpful. I mean, I feel more like I'm maybe a bit pessimistic, but I don't really think we're gonna make anything about it, or we're gonna do enough to come back to a state we had earlier. So we'll probably just end up in a new kind of Earth we've never known before in any cycle, and it's never gonna be like it was before. That's what I think. It's a sad answer, but that's how it is.
I'm not currently studying. I'm working right now. I mean, I work in immigration law. I'm a paralegal at an immigration law firm, so I don't know really how much my job impacts sustainability. I've got nothing. So, like, my job has nothing to do with sustainability, I would say. I mean, I'd say the field that I work in doesn't really lend itself much to an argument of sustainability. So I work in immigration law, which is people coming from, come to the UK, on visas. I mean, you can make the argument that more people in a country affect sustainability, but I think that's a weak argument, and that feeds into a lot of rhetoric which I'm not going to engage in. So I wouldn't say that really appealed to me in my employment.
Do you think about sustainability a lot or not?
I would say I think about it in a very much in the environmental sense. Sustainability in our processes and the way products are made. I think in almost every facet of life, sustainability is important. We need to be limiting our carbon footprint in production, in transport, across every field. There is a natural cycle to becoming hot and cold. If you look at the 4 billion years that the Earth has existed, of course, it has ranged from horrifyingly hot to very, very cold. But I think that's an argument that's often used as rhetoric to suggest that human-based climate change isn't real, which is ludicrous. We're, of course, massively contributing to climate change. The atmosphere has been warmer than it has been ever since measuring began, which I think was about 250 years ago. So while there are cycles, we are very much exacerbating those cycles. And at the end of the day, to make the argument that, it's cyclical, will be fine, we're cyclical. The human race has been here for 2,000 years. One little hitch in the cycle, we're all gone. The Earth doesn't care, so making the argument that it's cyclical is nonsense because no one will be there to prove it. That's my viewpoint. So, yeah.
So my study program, which is called Conflict Resolution in Divided Societies, I would say it's not principally linked to sustainability, but I would link it to sustainability in a way as that it helps to connect people and to connect countries. And as I see sustainability mostly in relation to the climate change and the climate crisis, I think that people and countries can only manage this crisis when they talk together, and I think my program is helping countries to work together and to kind of move beyond issues that they have that makes them not enter into dialogue with each other. So I think my study program can somehow help sustainability because it helps people talk to each other and be sustainable together, more or less.
Okay, my study program, it relates to sustainability. So we've had a lot of I'm doing international relations, and we had a lot of securitization stuff, and then environmental security. That was a big thing, and we did a project called Green Rhino, and it was how can you convince the British Army to be more sustainable in a sort of cost-effective, very simple way. And we all had to sort of pitch an idea to it, and we came together as a little group, and we came up with the idea of utilizing waste products, so blood, sweat, waste products from the toilets and stuff in the army, and turning that into energy and making that sort of a sustainable fuel for the army to use. And we had the amazing catchphrase, blood, sweat and tears fuels the army. And that was our sort of pitch. And then we had to do a whole presentation about that. And that was all sort of encouraged from our course. And we pitched that to our professors and stuff. And we're still waiting to hear back from them. But like that was all sort of stuff that we had to do in our course that was encouraging sustainability. Obviously, like the broader program is just called International Relations, which is a very sort of broad, sort of more political kind of angle. And most people, I would say, wouldn't sort of consider sustainability as an issue. But like one thing that we've sort of had made very clear to us, and something that I realised before I even applied, something that I did bear in mind before I applied, was one of the biggest issues that sort of every country in the world has to deal with is, sustainability, climate change, sustainability, all of that sort of thing. And that is something that has only been reinforced in our sort of in international relations. It's like what everyone kind of has to tackle. It's like, yeah, you've got all these specific issues with politics and wars and stuff, but like the one overarching thing that every single country in the world has to deal with is climate change. So yeah, it was something that I did think about, and it's something that's becoming more and more important every year. So yeah, 100%.